NADF welcomes you to the Prosperity Podcast, where inspiration meets innovation. I'm your host, Brian Davey, and we're delving into the heartbeat of economic prosperity in Northern Ontario. Join us as we bring you dynamic guests, sharing ideas, stories, and news that fuel the growth of Indigenous businesses. From success stories to cutting-edge strategies, we're your go-to source for cultivating prosperity in the heart of the North. Get ready to unlock the potential of Indigenous entrepreneurship. This is the Prosperity Podcast, because when we grow together, we all prosper. Let's get started. Today we're going to be speaking with Kim Bird, who's our loans manager with NADF, and she's based out of Timmins, and we're going to be talking about some of the programs that she manages as a loans manager. It's not just loans, but there's other things that we do as the loans manager. Welcome, Kim. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Good to see you here. Let's talk about some of the women programming initiatives that are going on at NADF, and maybe start with the basic question first as to why is it necessary? Maybe that's the wrong way of saying it. Why are we having women's programs or programs that are specific to women?
Yeah. Good. Okay. Excellent starting point. So in our organization, and probably several other organizations, we recognize that Indigenous women, they're underrepresented in several areas, including entrepreneurship. So that's the whole focus of why we are offering the Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship Program. So, because we realize there's a lot more we can do, and using small introduction steps, that's where we're starting. The Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship Program, it offers financing and grants. It's a combination. So and the reason why we're doing this is because we realize there's several barriers that Indigenous women face when they're thinking or trying to start a business. For example, just having access to equity. And I'll go into that because when somebody's coming for financing, as a lender, we're going to want to see a little bit of skin in the game, if you will. So quite often, like, we ask for a minimum of 10 or 15%, but the way this women's program is designed, it's lower, like 5%. And usually 5% is more reasonable and affordable to people. Also, when somebody's coming in for financing, it helps and removes barriers when we're able to offer a portion of the financing to be a grant, like forgivable. So the Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship Program, they can apply, individuals can apply up to $20,000, which is nice. And then at the end, 45% of that is a grant. Like, we forgive it. It's just to help give the woman a kickstart into their business opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, so the type of scenarios that we're seeing, we've been doing this for 2 years now. So there's women who are already working full-time. So they have skills and opportunities to try a business opportunity. So they do it as a side hustle, or they do it on the evenings and weekends when they have time. Because many of the women that we know, and I'm sure you know, they're usually the center of the family unit. They're trying to manage family, school, business, community, and taking care of other senior people in our families.
Right. Is there particular businesses that women gravitate to that I wouldn't know, but if you can, is there certain sectors that jump out at you, or?
Yeah, okay. From what we've seen, all sectors. There's women everywhere interested in everything. But the more, it's more like the people who already have a skill or something they're confident in doing as a hobby.
Right.
For example, people who make candles, or who do seamstress work, or beading, or regalia stuff. Those kind of stuff they're already doing. They just need a little bit of money just to take them to the next level higher and feel more confident to really go out and test the market further before they come for even bigger financing.
Okay.
So, but it's all sectors. Like, we see it in accommodations, we see it in construction. There is one female client of ours. She came for a 20,000 package, and she's in a construction business. And the funds we provided gave her a trailer. Start little, keep going, and get bigger.
Awesome. Okay, so So we've been doing this, NADF's been doing it for a while, have they not, on these particular programs, or are these relatively new?
So, yeah, so we've always offered microloans. Microloans are amounts of 2,500
Yeah.
to 7,500, and they weren't specific to women. They were open to anybody. But in the past 2 years, we've actually programming and naming a program specific to women. So we've been in that field now for 2 years. So what we've seen in the last 2 years is lots of uptake. We're getting calls from several communities. Like when we go out and host events and workshops, word travels, and people are really interested in the workshops we're offering specific to women. The type of workshops that we do, we touch a portion on financial literacy, budgeting, and then we go into the whole field of like business planning.
Yeah. Is there enough history now to determine what in banking they refer to as loan loss ratio? How are we doing overall with these businesses that we fund that are specific to women? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, so quickly looking back at the loans we have provided for this program for the Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
There's one that's kind of in the delinquent range, but the other 6 are doing fine.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great to have. So are most of these applicants older? I mean, is there an age demographic that comes out in these applicants, or not that it really matters? But I would thinking that we would probably, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just asking that. Is it would be more younger people, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's all over the gamut.
Yeah, so we're seeing a range, like early 20s to I think even somebody in their early 60s. That's what we've been looking at.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So I think
great.
it's vast.
So if people wanted to take advantage of these programs, they just have to call the office, and then they're directed to someone that then takes down the information on what they're planning on doing. Maybe just walk us through the process if someone wanted to, if a woman wanted to apply. How did that work? Or is it online? I don't know.
We have several ways people can call us. So we're a small team at NADF. If somebody has any business question, the first thing you do is call our 1-800-465-6821 number, and you're going to speak with our business support officer who knows about all our programs. But then if you're an Indigenous woman and you're looking for specific women's programming, we'll direct you right away to our Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship Coordinator. And her name is Ashley LaBelle. So Ashley LaBelle is a person who works with women, and her focus is nothing but working with Indigenous women, doing workshops, taking in applications, helping them complete their business plans, and giving suggestion and guidance on how they can improve their business plans. And from there, we take those applications and we look at how much we can help with financing.
And if they wanted to learn more about webinars or workshops where they can come and benefit from information being shared, how NADF does those things every now and then, and what type of workshops are they?
Yeah. So if you go on our website, www.nadf.org, you will see like upcoming workshops or webinars we are hosting. Next week, there is an information webinar on specifically women in business applications. So if you want to join me, I'll be hosting that one, and you can call in. If you have specific questions, I'll be glad to help you out. And we do webinars. We're trying to get on a path where we're having Wednesday webinars. So at least 2 times a month, we're having those kind of events.
Well, that's good. I mean, it sounds like we're just starting, but what about is there larger projects that are being applied for? Like I'm saying, maybe 100,000, 200,000. Are there larger ones that are being?
So we've been working at NADF to get ready for the larger opportunities that we see that we couldn't really participate in a few years ago because of the size of our loan limits.
Yeah.
So the change that's come is we have increased our loan sizes.
Okay.
So what we tell the public now, we can look at applications up to 500,000. We can also look at requests for $1 million, and in exceptional cases, we can also look at projects that need $2 million. And those are the larger end of the loans we do. Historically, we were capping ourselves off at around 200 50 or
Yeah.
300,000
But
loans.
these are not specific to women, though. Anybody could apply to these,
Yeah,
right?
so as long as the business is operating in Northern Ontario,
Maybe
man,
describe
woman,
Ontario, maybe describe Northern Ontario.
So Northern Ontario, also again, reference our website. Your business has to be operating in Northern Ontario, and the way NADF describes Northern Ontario is Treaty 9, Treaty 3, and Robinson Superior. Those are the areas. So if you wanted to be sure before you went further ahead, just call us. We'll tell you if we can service you, and you don't have to necessarily be in a First Nation. You can be in a town. All we need to see is that you are a status First Nation individual, and we can assist you.
Okay. If I was a woman that wanted to apply for a loan, let's say of $100,000,
Yeah.
I hear the word security, but I really don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share with our audience what
Okay.
that means when you sit in front of an account manager.
Yeah, security sounds like a scary word, but if you're going to go into business, it's important you really plan out how your business is going to work and how you're going to really work hard to do it. Because when you come to us or any lender, you really have to convince the person you're trying to borrow from that you have a solid business case and you understand what you're getting involved with. So when we give somebody a loan, we want to make sure that we're covered for, like, in case the business doesn't work or it fails for whatever reason, we're going to want to make sure that we have something to take or to fall back on in case you can't, fully repay back your loan. Sometimes we'll take, like, say if you have, if you have assets, like say if you have a truck or a car or a snow machine and it belongs to you and it's all paid off, maybe we'll take that as security. But for the Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship programming, we're trying to remove several barriers. So what we get for security is usually a promissory note. So part of
What is that? Promissory note?
Yeah, okay. So when we give you a loan package, you're going to get a loan offer, and then there's some other pieces in there, and one of them is called a promissory note. So it's just a one page that says, I, Kimberley Bird, promise to repay NADF $20,000 at this interest rate by this time. So it's just a promise. I promise to repay you. So that's what all our loan packages have.
Can I ask you a question on the if I was applying for a loan, and let's say I'm a woman, an entrepreneur, do I have to go to the band office to talk to them about anything if my business is on reserve?
Okay.
Is there a band council resolution I have to get from them, or a letter, or what's my engagement with the band office if I want to start up my
Okay,
whatever
good
it
question.
might be?
Yeah. So when we get applications from First Nation communities, like where the business is going to be operating in the First Nation, it's important that the chief and council are aware of what's happening in their community.
Right.
So usually when the client will go to the First Nation and say, I plan on opening a small takeout restaurant business. So we will often ask for what is called a band council resolution. So it's a document signed by the chief and council saying they're aware of the business opportunity that the member is trying to do and that they support it. And by support, I mean just being aware, and they're aware of what's happening and they're allowing it. Because some communities are specific as to what kind of business they want and encourage in their communities, and some things they may not want to have. So when we have a band council resolution as part of our application, like, we can help you with the wording, and we work with the chief and council on why we need it. But we can also put things in the BCR saying, in case of default, NADF will be allowed to come in there and try to collect some of the assets in case the business is not working.
Okay.
But I do want to say, when we give out loans, what we do monthly follow-up, and we really work closely with that individual because we really want them to be successful with their business and their loan payments. So we have, in several instances, revised the loan payment amounts or come up with a revision to get the person back on track with their business, because quite often people work hard and they really want to, make their business a success, but need some hand-holding and some friendly, understanding lenders, and that's what we are. So when people call us and tell us that they're having a problem for 1 month, we talk to them and they tell us, so, we don't charge them NSF fees, but as long as we have that relationship and we're able to work with them, we can postpone the payment or add it on to at the end of the loan. Like, there's ways we work with clients, and we do that on a regular basis.
Yeah. I also know that NADF has grant programs. The acronym is ABFP. Maybe you can explain what that is. But if I were to apply for a loan, whether I'm a woman or a man, and would I be able to stack a grant on top of my loan? So my ask to NADF would be a loan and a grant. And how does that work? Maybe you can walk us through the process and how that works.
Okay, so one of the programs that we've delivered here at NADF for about 25 years now, successfully, is called the Aboriginal Business Financing Program, ABFP. So it's grants. So it's there designed to help you kickstart or help you have a better chance in having a profitable, viable business. So with that program, there's several things you can access grants for. You can access a grant to help you finish off a professionally done business plan. Say if you don't know how to finish it all off yourself. Many of our entrepreneurs, they do their own business plans with just a little bit of help from us. But under the grant program, we have funds that we can help pay for business planning. And but the question about an actual startup, let's say if an individual wanted $100,000 to start up a business, there is a formula that the individual can apply for, like 2 programs. So it's 3 parts. There's always like your skin in the game, your equity. So that would be at least 10%. So 10% of $100,000, $10,000. That's what you would be inputting into the business startup. And then the grant would come in anywhere from about maybe 35% to 40%, depending on how old you are, right? So our definition of youth at NADF, if you're aged 18 to 39, so if you're in that age category, good for you. Enjoy it while it lasts. But if you're a youth, you can access up to 40% grant of your business startup costs. So let's say your startup was $100,000 again. Up to $40,000 would be the forgivable contribution part. So that's a good chunk of financing to help you get your business started, right? And then the other half, the other 50%, is what the loan that NADF would be providing you. And our interest rates range anywhere from 8.5 to 12%. So
how is that comparable to other lenders in the city or anywhere in Northern Ontario?
Yeah, so there's different Aboriginal financial institutions in Ontario, in Canada, right? So our brother and sister organizations have different ways of charging interest. Some are prime plus 3 to 4%. Some are flat 10% interest rates. But at NADF, we do a risk rating exercise when somebody's coming for financing. So we really look at each individual, like one-on-one, case by case. So that's how we end up with a range. So when you're coming to NADF for that example, the 100,000 business financing opportunity, at the end of the day, you're leaving here with like a $50,000 loan at, say, maybe 8.5% or 9%. But once you factor in the grant amount, the 40%, once you factor that in, the effective rate of interest is actually 4% lower. So you're really getting a good deal when you're coming here and you're able to get a loan and that grant. So we think it's a great package. Every year we have about 1.5 to 2 million to disperse in grants, and it goes quickly. So they can be smaller grants and larger grants.
So are there limits, upsides on how much grant I can actually ask for if I'm an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So the smaller ones for sole proprietors or individuals, up to $99,999. And then if you're a community-based organization, for example, in First Nation communities, they usually have ACDEV corporations where they run their business operations. If they can apply for grants up to $249,999. And they're not straight grants; they're part of a funding formula.
This is more of a general question. Is there, in your experience, what certain things, what one or two things that drives a business sideways, or what in your experience, what did you see that seems to be a a general cause why a certain business stalls or goes sideways and NADF has to, well, it doesn't have to, I suppose they could, but from time to time get asked to come in and help out. So what are some of the things that they should watch out for when they're growing their business?
Okay, I really like that question. That could be a whole other podcast for us. But just to give you a few examples from the years I've seen and from all the clients we've had some issues with. Number one, bookkeeping. If you're not making bookkeeping a priority as part of your business plan or in your operations, you're in for trouble, and that's the start of everything else tumbling like dice in. Because it's an impact, right? If you don't know how much money you have in the bank, if you don't know how much profit you're making at the end of the month, if you don't know how much your outstanding checks are that haven't cleared from your bank account, like you can't operate like that. There's no way, it's not going to work. And then you're going to get into serious issues, like if you have employees and if you don't pay them, and then also with if anything to do with CRA. We've seen in some instances.
Maybe you can explain what that is, CRA.
CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency for Taxation. Mm-hmm. So we've seen, a couple of examples of where businesses like really failed to communicate and work with the organizations that they need to comply with when they're running a business in Ontario.
Can I ask you about bookkeeping? Is there a service that NADF has to help out your clients with respect to?
Yes, so realizing that bookkeeping is an issue, so what we've done at NADF for the past 2 years now, we have a free bookkeeping program. Mm-hmm. So we have a lady on staff named Wendy Roberts. So if you're an Indigenous business operating in Northern Ontario, you can call us and you can speak with Wendy, and at no cost, we can help you get your books arranged in a proper format. We're not going to do the books for you, but we're going to teach you how to do them properly.
So when you say properly, is the financial statement, I'm assuming you're referring to financial statements that are generated by the business for their business. And are these financial statements review statements, notice to reader statements? I know there's different categories of financial statements. Audited statements? I mean, maybe you can explain what kind of statements are useful to NADF and any lender for that matter.
Yeah. So it all depends on like how we've risk rated your application or how much money you're asking for from NADF. Mm-hmm. So if you're asking for let's say $500,000 and maybe you're a high risk loan, then we will be asking you for audited financial statements. Realizing that when we ask people for those type of statements, that they're a couple of $1,000s to get.
Yeah.
And whereas notice to reader, it's just it's like everything that the business owner has saved, like their shoebox, if you will, of receipts, all their invoices, or all their bill of sales, all those things. It's just taking that pile and taking it to a bookkeeper or an accountant and telling them to piece it together in the format of an income statement and a balance sheet, where there really is no verification. It's just a put together of like everything that are expenses, everything that's revenue, and the accountant bookkeeper puts it in that format, but they don't really verify the processes back at the shop.
Right.
So notice to reader, we're usually fine with that for our loans that are medium or low risk. But depending on how risky your operation is and how much we've given you, we decide which kind we're going to ask for from you annually.
So I do know that you get from CRA, the revenue agency, you get taxation notice of assessments. Is that important when it comes to having my loan application assessed, having those? Is it necessary to have those?
Yeah.
That's of course if you're paying your tax. And
yeah. So when somebody decides that they're thinking of financing and are really in deep thought about it, and the next step is to reach out to us, we'll have those conversations with you. We're going to go in detail about like the application process, and part of our application process is like understanding who you are as an individual and what your financial net worth is. Because when people come to us for financing, whether it's loans or grants, there's always going to be like a credit check involved, because we need to know your client So if we're going to be spending time with you and investing in you, we're going to find out more about your business capabilities and your credit rating.
So the question I have is, you said net worth. I need to know what that means and how do I calculate that?
Yeah, okay. So part of our application form, and we'd walk you through it, there is a 1/2 page where, like, if, let's assume you, Brian, you're a sole proprietor. So you're coming to us for a loan of $200,000. So we want to know more about you. So part of the way we do that is, okay, what do you have and what do you owe? So the left side is everything that Brian owns, your house, your car, your sauna,
Okay.
all the things that you've paid and bought for, everything that you have in your ownership. And then on the other side is everything you owe. Like, say, we want to know if you have 2 houses, what's the leftover mortgage on them? If you have a truck, like, and you bought it for $90,000, we want to know, do you still owe $20,000 or is it all paid off, right? It gives us an idea of, at the end of the day, it's a math equation. Everything I have and what do I owe on it? And then you subtract that and that's your net worth. So we always want it to be positive. If you're negative, then you're overspending and you need to calm down with your expenses, because if your net worth is negative, then we're going to have a really hard time even considering you for more money.
So when we're looking at those assets that I own, are those the things that are used for security in some cases?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a nice circle, because when we started, you were asking about security. So we want to know what you have and what you actually own, because if we lend you $200,000, we want to make sure we can hang on to something till your loan's paid off.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. So we went through a lot of stuff here today. Is there anything that you would like to share before we bring to an end our podcast here?
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
I've been here for 25 years. I'm still here because I really believe in the mission and vision that the organization stands for,
Okay.
promoting Aboriginal prosperity by economic development and business opportunities. So, and with truth and reconciliation, the timing is right, where we live, the resources we have, the industries we're close to, we're set in a prime location to do so much more. It's going to be exciting.
One that I can't let you go then without that last question. Where do you think the opportunities are going forward? Given your perch
It's
where
just
you're
a
at
matter
right
of
now.
time, like where we live, right? You have to look at what we have.
Yeah.
So what we have as people who live in the north, like, again, what's our net worth in the north? Our net worth is everything we have, right? So who has it?
Yeah.
So what are the things? Land, trees, minerals, water, air. Those are everything we have. So you have to make those important. They are important. That's how we live.
We've been speaking with Kim Bird, Loans Manager for NADF, and we definitely would like to invite you back in 12 months to see where things are at with NADF. And thank you very much for being with us today.
Awesome. Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of Prosperity Podcast, proudly brought to you by NADF. I'm your host, Brian Davey, and I've just delved into the heartbeat of economic empowerment in Northern Ontario. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay connected, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. Your support fuels momentum of Indigenous entrepreneurship. Remember, on the Prosperity Podcast, we believe that when we grow together, we all prosper. So let's continue this journey of growth and success. Until next time, I'm Brian Davey signing off. Stay inspired, stay innovative, and let's keep prospering together.